Hello there everybody, how the devil are we all? I am technically alive, or something, I don't fucking know anymore. Hello. Don't know if you can tell, but I'm having one or two health issues lately. I've had some, I don't even know what it is, tonsil related something, or I don't fucking know. And now I'm a little bit fluey. So you have to be very, very nice to me. Like, unbelievably, extraordinarily nice to me. Okay? But other than that, you know. Hello. How are we all? Yes, other than that, though, I'm fine, I think. Other than feeling physically very bad. Seamstress Dragon, you live in a fantasy land. My sweet summer child. Go to the doctor, Kev. Are you joking? Are you joking? In Britain, in 2025, you think there's a possibility you can get a fucking doctor's appointment? Are you mental? The only way you get a doctor's appointment... Actually, you don't get a doctor's appointment. The only way you get to see any kind of medical practitioner now is if you die, they eventually find your corpse in such a state of decomposition that they can tell you're a human being, and then you get to go to the morgue. That's it. They've cut out the whole healthcare bit in between, the being alive and being dead bit. You just go to the fucking morgue. If they can scrape enough mould off you to tell that you're human, you get to go to the morgue and then they burn you. And that's it. So, you know. So I'm not even going to bother. Like, what I don't need, on top of feeling a bit rough anyway, is the rejection of having being told, like, ringing up straight away as soon as the fucking doctor opens and being like, oh, have you got a doctor's appointment? And they go, no, fuck off. Like, I don't need that emotional weight on me as well. At least when I don't ring up and ask, I don't get the emotional pain of not bothering, or the emotional pain of them rejecting me isn't there. So it's, you know, hopeful. Like, theoretically, I could get a doctor's appointment. You know, it's like they say about, like, fulfilling your potential. I don't want to fulfill my potential. Because I know it's going to be shit. And I'll just be disappointed and, like, and just upset. That's the best I can do, is that. Whereas theoretically, if I just leave it out there as like a theoretical thing, the best I can do, my actual potential, I could be anything. I could be a fucking heart surgeon. I could write a fucking symphony. I could do all kinds of cool shit, right? But if you actually try your hardest and get the best you can possibly do, it's going to be shit. It's going to be embarrassingly shit. And I don't need that. What I need is the comforting lie that I might not be shit. And I'm fine with that. I can fucking handle that. Not a problem. Pope Francis's health has slightly improved. See, why is he rubbing it in, the cunt? Couldn't he just fucking die to make me feel better, the prick? But he remains in a critical condition, the Vatican have said in a medical update. Oh, fuck him, the cunt. Anyway. I have chili in my eye. Look, you know what? I can't help you, Lord Fritus, but you just helped me. Because now I'm imagining you in quite a lot of pain. I don't know why, but that does make me feel quite aroused. Actually, that's the worst. Well, actually, not remotely the worst thing. But when you're ill, you can't you can't be horny when you're ill. Do you know what I mean? Just go to your European doctor. Oh, shut the fuck up, Fogel. I'll fucking do you in. I'll do you in, mate. That is kind of true. That is kind of true. Who the fuck said that? Miss Hire, thank you. Anyway, that's the... Right. Thank you, Elliot, with bits. My mum's friend is a GP, so I get it quickly. Well, that's good for you. Thank you for rubbing it in, Elliot, that I can't get a fucking doctor. Don't die, Kev. Well, thank you, Captain Swiss. By the way, everyone go and check out Captain Swiss. They're a good egg. I might not always agree with them, but they do like good stuff. I was watching some of their stuff earlier about the German election. And actually, that's the point, right? There are loads of really big stories that I could talk about today. There's loads of really fucking massive news stories around. Obviously, the German election being one of them. You know, we could go through all of the machinations there with the rise of the AfD, but also the rise of is it Link, whatever the fuck they're called, the left-wing party there, and the fact that they're winning in the 18 to 34 category and so on. Like, there's loads of really cool shit to break down. We could talk about Donald Trump literally voting against a motion at the United Nations to condemn Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Not even abstaining, to actively refuse point blank to condemn Russia for their illegal and immoral invasion of Ukraine. I mean, literally, he's treasonous scum. Something far more direct is going to need to happen to him. Anyway, we could talk about that. We could talk about the guy that's probably going to become the next German Chancellor, saying that Europe needs to break away and become independent of the United States. Massive. For a guy who was supposedly an Atlanticist, a massive leap. We're seeing a genuine like transformation in geopolitics before our eyes. Historic shit. We could talk about the fact that there was a Labour MP sent to jail for 10 weeks. In update on the best candidates available category. Yeah. We could talk about the guy, the head of the former head of the Reform Party in Wales, who was in court today on charges of having taken bribes from the Russian state in order to make pro-Russian propaganda in the United Kingdom. Obviously, because it's reform. I'm just surprised they even bothered taking him to court. Rich white people rarely go to court, do they, for things like that? So that's interesting. We could talk about the fact that there's a fantastic poll out today that showed that people polled in Britain, 43% of the people polled thought that so far Keir Starmer has achieved nothing. Nothing as Prime Minister. 43%. Only 11% thought that he achieved a substantial amount. It's going super well. Adults in the room is going super well, lads. Like, come on now. Pricks. So there's loads of shit. There's loads of really, really fucking important shit that we could talk about. Or we could watch some tanky rubbish. What do you reckon? Do you want to talk about all the newsy shit that would be really fun and interesting and like important? Or do you want to waste a few hours together watching some absolute wank? By the way, you don't actually get to choose that. That was a hypothetical question. I have made the decision. And indeed, it's in the title. So, like, if you clicked on this, you already know. Right? you already know this is a slop fest incoming. The 11% is Super Tansky, Bowler Hatman, and other centrist melts. That is not nice. I mean, yeah, but yeah. For fuck's sake! I mean, firstly, I'm less perturbed by this meme. Oh, for fuck's sake! Hang on a second. It would help if I went onto the right fucking thing, wouldn't it? You stupid bastard cunt! Fuck off! Fuck off! Fuck off! You fucking cunt! There we go. I'm less perturbed by this meme because you got the year of my birth wrong. So I feel like this literally can't come true as a headstone unless they get it. They also get it wrong, I guess. Like, I was born in 1987, so you know. But I appreciate the joke nonetheless. Thank you, 255. That is, yeah. Infrared has and socialism for all are in a tanky feud. Lol. If you've got links, I'm more than happy to take a look. Because what I had for you was, frankly, an offensive video. Hakim, who's a Marxoid-Leninoid. Oh, by the way, I should probably explain the premise. Tankie Tuesday was a thing I was going to do every Tuesday where I look at tanky shite and like point out where they're wrong, because tankies are wrong about things, right? And so that's what I'm going to do now. But the joke now is that I never do it on a Tuesday. Except one of the days I'm going to do it on a Tuesday, just for the lols of saying that I'm doing it on a Tuesday. Just to keep people on their toes, you know. Anyway, so that's what we're doing, right? This isn't like Tankie Tuesday, like yay tankies. It's no, fuck tankies, right? So Hakim, Marxist-Leninist guy. The many crimes of France. Now, that's absolutely true, right? No arguments with the thumbnail. The many crimes of France. True. The title, though. The title. I do have to contend. France, the most evil empire to ever exist. Au contraire. I will not put up with this slander against Grand Bretagne. Britain is by far the most evil empire that's ever existed. You cannot take that fucking title from us. Okay? Like, don't get me wrong, France was fucked up. But everything France did, we did better and in more places. And we managed to fuck over France a lot as well. So, like, I'm not even going to take this kind of slander. Unbelievable. So we might take a look at that, or I might just leave it as that the joke. Just do that joke. What the fuck is this now? How am I getting older? You've gone completely the wrong direction. It's 1987, goddammit. Oh. I'm hearing we can be way more... No, not that we can be way more racist. We are way more racist. We have been, we continue to be, and we will be more racist than you. Okay, France? Don't even start with me. If you want to get into a racism off, don't even start. Alright? You are a grumpy old man in spirit, Kev. I am. I'm the ghost of Christmas wank, is what I am. You're very welcome. Anyway. The point being, so we got that bollocks, right? Boomer can... yeah, fuck it, why not? And we've also got this one. Well, this is interesting. Very, 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 very old heads may remember my interactions with Bad Mouse from a very long time ago. Bad Mouse is a British... I don't even know what politics he has now, which is sort of why it would be interesting to watch this. I got to know him when he was sort of an anarchist, right? It actually does really well put together videos, right? Regardless of what you think of his politics, they're actually excellent production value. Production values, whatever. He started off as an ANCAP. I shit you not, right? He was like, he's not even that old or anything. He's only like, I think about 30 now or something. I came across him, giggity. No, I came across his content when he was an anarchist, when he was like an ANCAP, right? A libertarian capitalist. Fucking wanker. Anyway, and he did one of the very rare, genuine heel turns, if that makes sense. Like, we've seen this "why I left the left" nonsense, like from fucking Dave Rubin, and currently with, you know, the TYT crowd and all of that, which is like fake. They're doing that for money. It's a grift. Whereas Bad Mouse is a genuinely inquisitive, if somewhat movable, malleable political creature. In that he started off as an ANCAP type guy, and then completely flipped to becoming a libertarian socialist. Like, pretty much, no, but not overnight, but like, relatively speaking, very quickly. And he lost basically all of his original audience and got, you know, a kind of socialisty audience. And then he became like an anarchist kind of guy, and then morphed into like this weird kind of pseudo ML, then became an out and out ML tanky fucking freak. And I don't quite know what he is anymore. Anyway, by the way, when I knew him briefly, we didn't end well. I did try and contact him years later and like mend the bridge, but he didn't contact me back. So, and to be honest with you, he probably doesn't even fucking remember me now, which is fine. Absolutely no problems. Anyway, so, and now I don't know where his politics are. Like I say, he was an ML, but this one's called the defeatism of Stalinist arguments, and I think it's sort of against Tankieism or something. I don't know. But it comes highly recommended from someone who did watch it, who said I should definitely watch it on a Tankie Tuesday. So we'll give it a bash, I guess, and see where it's an hour long, so like, I'm probably going to get about 8 hours worth of fucking content out of it, because I never shut the fuck up. And we'll have a million fucking what do you call it? A fucking million sidetracks. We'll probably be halfway through his explanation of I don't know, the fucking gulag system, and all of a sudden someone will fucking here's some cute kittens. We'll be on a kitten fucking kick for, not literally a kitten kick. That's no. So yeah, he even shits on Hakim in it. Oh, okay. So is he doing tanky drama now? Because I'm all here for it, man. I am all here for that shit. If tankies want to be like, I don't know, just fucking shitting on each other. Because let's be honest, that's what authoritarians are good at, right? Authoritarians are good at backstabbing and being sly little pricks with one another. So if they want to start like ragging on each other and fucking airing dirty laundry, I'm all for it, man. Absolutely all here for it. I have given Bad Mouse a tour of a city nearby when he was on holiday. Really? Using that? That's very, very peculiar. Hang on, did he know you? Did you know each other? Or just randomly, because aren't you from the Netherlands or something? So he just went on holiday to the Netherlands and you recognised him, or do you know him? I don't know. Either way, I'm very impressed. Either way, right. Regardless of what one thinks of the current economic system or the economic system of any actually existing socialist states, the one we currently live under is called capitalism. It sucks donkey dick. But unfortunately, we have no choice. That's one of the reasons it sucks donkey dick. It's a little bit all-encompassing. A little bit Big Brother. Anyway, and in capitalism, you need money to live. It's just simple as that. Like, unless you are the perfect hunter-gatherer and you can go and live as a fucking wild man hermit creature or something, which, look at me, obviously not. I am the Frisian cow of modern humanity. A fat, titted freak who couldn't survive in the wild for shit. I need a farmer to milk me. Actually, this is just getting sex now. This is just getting sexy. It's weird. Anyway, I need money to live. And so, you can help me out with the living. You can be the farmer that milks me. Jesus fucking Christ. I am a grown adult. I operate like a washing machine and everything. Anyway, so you can do that in the form of, you can hit the follow button, you can subscribe. You can subscribe with Amazon Prime. You can gift subs to the community. You can. I believe in you. You can do bits messages. You can do super chats for the Streamlabs link below. $2 or 200 bits or more on those things will get you a text-to-speech. I've got a PayPal and a Patreon. If you want to go over to the Patreon, you can help me out monthly on a regular, recurring basis if that's a thing you're able and willing to do. That'd be fucking dope. I have got a Discord. You can go and check out cool people on the Discord. You can check me out on YouTube, Facebook, Blue Sky, TikTok, Instagram, and Threads. If you're on YouTube, or your YouTubes, you can become a member for as little or as much as 99 pence. Yeah. Literally, that is the one price that you can pay to become a member here. You can also gift memberships to the community if you wanted to. And you can do super chats, which I will read out, especially if they're grossly offensive.
Feel better soon. Here's a kitty bonk announced by the sultry voice.
Yeah, it is a sultry voice. Very much so. Thank you, Wayward Historian, with Bitty Bits. Much love to you. If someone else does a thingamajig now, we would get onto a very early hype train, which would be fucking sexy. I think we can all agree on that. Ooh, bit gassy. I'm not selling my bath milk. For a start off, we've been through this. I take showers. I do not, I don't have a, well, I do have a bath, but I use it to stand in, to wash myself in a cleanly way, because this is not ancient Rome. I also don't use a strigil, which is the thing they used to do, like a big stick for scraping off dirt. You know what I mean? Like, no. I shower because I'm not a medieval peasant. Anyway, Tankie Tuesday. Oh yeah, and by the way, so the first half will be whatever this is, and then the second half we watch a documentary series called Soviet Storm, which is fucking awesome. It's about the Second World War on the Eastern Front. When I say it's awesome, the actual themes and stuff in it are obviously gruesome as fuck. 26 million Soviet citizens died in that fucking war. So, like, I want to say died, were murdered by the Nazis. Yeah, the content warning for that. But the program, is very good, and I enjoy it. And I've totally forgotten what episode we're at, so we'll have to do that fucking debate again whenever we get to it. We're past Stalingrad, I know that much. I think we might be on the retaking of Ukraine, or maybe beyond that, I don't know. Anyway, we'll get to it in about fucking 6 hours.
Marxism-Leninism is one of the most abundant communist ideologies across the world. Over the past 10 years, it has also become an incredibly popular ideology within online communist circles. And even amongst those who may not capital M align, much of that influence is still very evidently felt. From around late 2017 to mid-2021, I also adhered to it as well, with splash...
Okay, so from 2017, so that was after I knew him, to 2021. So for the last 3 years he hasn't been a ML, apparently.
...of Maoist fought from time to time, I suppose. I cannot say I believe that anymore. I don't consider Marxism-Leninism to be evil, nor do I believe it to be particularly dangerous.
Well, you're a fucking idiot then. I'm sorry, you are. You are. If you don't think it's dangerous, look, don't get me wrong, if you don't think it's that bad in some theoretical sense, fine. But the idea that it's not dangerous, of course it's fucking dangerous. Like, you know the gulags existed, right? You know the NKVD and the KGB and the Cheka and the Special Department and the Lubyanka. You know these things existed. The purges happened. Like, you can't divorce those things because, well, theoretically they shouldn't happen under Marxism-Leninism. Material conditions. No, they happened. And if you don't think that'll happen again, you have fundamentally misunderstood the authoritarian nature of that system. Again, benevolent dictatorship's all well and good. How long does it stay benevolent? What is this? I was also an anarchist when I was younger, but so this is Bad Mouse's thing. If you want the reason why I left, okay. Is that on the screen for everybody? Right. If you want to see the reason why I left, I couldn't find a way of reconciling communist ideals with the practices of Marxism-Leninism. It doesn't prefigure or develop a world we would want to build. That and the critique of authority from MLs is incredibly poor. That is also true. Also, MLism has a practice of lying and misinterpreting historic events to an enormous degree. That is unbelievably true. They are the Holocaust deniers of the left. Some of them literally deny actual genocides, for instance. You might initially think the new information you hear is damning, but the more you dig into it, it is far from desired, no matter how many lies might be said about them. There you go. Yeah. Oh, that's me again. That's me, born in 1968, because I am very old. How long would you stay as a benevolent dictator, Kev? You know what? I don't think I'd ever be a benevolent dictator. I'd just be evil from the start. Like, I'd go into it just fully, like, just, look, my dick's on the table. I'm just saying now, right? I am going to abuse my power. That is going to happen, okay? I'm going to purge people. I'm going to gulag motherfuckers. And if you don't like it, I will have you shot. It's fun to say because I wouldn't ever do it. So we found out on Saturday that my mum doesn't have cancer. The best weekend ever. Oh, that's fucking dope, as friends Rost. That more, I hope, would more than make up for the fact that you also lost against Liverpool. Ah! Oh, that hurt my throat more than I enjoyed doing it. Which is much like giving head. What was I saying? I don't even fucking remember. Yeah.
At least today it seems to be a pretty fruitless, defeatist dead end. But it's in large part because of that and the apparent abundance of young people getting their first entrance to the left through this road that I feel it's leading to a dampening of critical thought that we could be using elsewhere. And that I do find to be a problem. In my reflections since those days,
he speaks quite slowly, so I'm going 1.25 on this bitch.
I've narrowed down a few prolific arguments and cliches that we were all very guilty of. If you're just beginning to come across this ideology, perhaps I can offer a counterposition, lest you also get caught up in the propaganda, as I
Okay, that's a little bit too quick. Oh no, hang on. .1, let's go.
did. But before we do all of that, I wanted to quickly go over a trend that I think we are probably all guilty of to one extent or another on the left, me being a prime example. You often come across people who have lived or their parents have lived under actually existing socialist states.
Oh god,
And
I literally did. Oh my god, V. No. It's the GIMP. The GIMP has arrived. Oh, fuck yes. Again, old heads rise up. That is amazing. Anyway, I literally did the joke about actually existing socialism. Because that's a thing that fucking MLs call it. Because they're wankers. Oh, V's a fascinating creep. He's genuinely one of the creepiest motherfuckers ever. Oh god, there was a whole thing about someone online found his weird sex kink site thing. Anyway, where he like listed all his weird kinks. Anyway, he was Sargon of Akkad's bitch, basically. He was one of the Gamergate freaks. He's from, I think, Romania, if I recall correctly. So, you know, an actually existing socialism's state. Yeah, and he's... oh, God. Is he still alive? Do we know if he's still alive? Like, it would be funny either way. Because either someone like this can survive in this world, which is hilarious, or he's dead, and that would also be hilarious. So, like, it's a win-win, really. I hear washing machines live longer with him. Carl, oh, I see what you've done. Sargon's ball washer, literally.
Often go, rah, rah, I hated it, rah, ugh, it was cold, no food, rah. And much of the time, these people just end up supporting Milton Friedman or some liberal think tank somewhere.
He's no Dan Petrescu, that is true.
I don't have a lot of time for these people. Their arguments always tend to miss the point, and they just become openly reactionary. But whilst I know that memes like this can be a lot of fun, there is a real need to look into the reasons for why so many people think this way, and why they get drawn towards
yeah, that's the lad
quo.
Phantom.
Because it's just not the reality that the majority of people who hated living under these systems held the monopoly of eggs. It's easy for us to say in this capitalist shithole, oh, I wouldn't mind living in East Germany, or communist Poland, or whatever. It wasn't that bad. Or maybe you might look at a documentary about Albania and feel a sense of national spirit and togetherness. Some of us...
Well, don't get me wrong, right? The capitalist hellscape of the modern world is really, really tragic to exist in. But, like, you see, like, okay, I didn't want to cover the German, fucking kill me. The German election. Right, but I think it is worth watching the looking at the electoral map. Now, before we get into this, it isn't just that East Germany was a terrible system built on an economic pyramid scheme, which passed from generation to generation until eventual collapse. No, it wasn't just that. It's the fact that the neoliberal experiment has done nothing to try and help them out of that. But either way, can anyone tell me where they think, the AFD is in blue, by the way, so the far right people, can anyone tell me where they think the border of the old East Germany is on that map? Does anyone want to hazard a guess as to which bit of that map was East Germany and which bit wasn't? Yeah, the economic deprivation in East Germany is unbelievably profound compared to their Western allies. Now, again, neoliberalism has done nothing to help that situation. But neoliberalism has kind of fucked over everybody. Not necessarily equally, but it has fucked over everybody. And the fact that East Germany has slumped into fascism in such an obvious and clear way, because that's like just literally the fucking Iron Curtain is the boundary there, right? Tells you, I mean, quite a lot about how fucking shit that system was. It just fucking was. So the idea that you would want to have lived in East Germany as opposed to West Germany, why? Literally why? Answers on a postcard, I guess. Like, it doesn't speak well to your system that you have to build a wall to keep people in. Yeah, neoliberalism absolutely has made that situation worse. Completely. Yeah. Yeah. But the point, I think, still stands. I think the point still stands that, like, if you were throwing a party at your house, and when people tried to leave, you had to like build a wall to prevent them from doing so because they all wanted to leave, I wouldn't chalk that one up as a W. Do you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't be putting that one on the old Snapchat reels. So, just saying. Sorry, no, it was the anti-fascist rampart, of course.
They believe that we have nothing.
It's all those Western Germans trying to sneak into Eastern Germany, yeah, definitely.
Nothing to worry about because we would always support those systems' values anyway. I know I'll sound like some anti-communist rag for saying this, but if you actually lived during those periods, it would not be that simple. Even if you did have access to universal utilities and good public transport. Imagine you're an ordinary person raised in such a system, being told your entire life about how you're building this grand socialist plan, immersed only in that way of being. Yet still, when you look around yourself, your life is basically just the grind. You're becoming increasingly alienated from your work. You're steadily becoming depoliticized. You don't see much of an improvement in your standard of living, and there isn't some social alternative to alleviate that feeling as a compromise. You feel limited in your self-actualization, limited in your ability to change things. Yet you constantly see apparatchiks who are cooking the books and earning way more than you ever would. After some time, you might well become fed up with that. No amount of somebody from outside telling you, hey, it's all part of the grander socialist plan, it's multipolarity, otherwise the bad guys win, is going to help make it better for you. You know full well what you're going through. You know the power dynamics in your life. Multipolarity suddenly doesn't mean much when it's your back that's feeling the end of the whip. True. Most of us will not be involved in state affairs. Most of us will just be little Mikhails, little Spignevs, little Tobiases. And at some point you might try and give a suggestion. Hey, maybe we can listen to some of that Western music without having to pirate it all onto bone discs all the time. And no.
Talking of the Western blah blah blah, I watched a video the other day. Fucking Balta. Did you know this will only really make sense either to the people of the former Yugoslavia or the UK? Did you know that Only Fools and Horses, the British sitcom, situation comedy of the 1970s and 80s and 90s, and I think it went technically into the 2000s, it was very, very popular in the former Yugoslavia. Yeah. They started to ease restrictions on like Western shite in parts of the Eastern Bloc at that time, and and so they started showing Only Fools and Horses, which for those who don't know is about a working class family of two brothers with a significant age difference who live in a tower block called Nelson Mandela Tower. Don't get mixed by the name. It's a very kind of Eastern Bloc looking, like it looks a bit Eastern Bloc tower, right? Awful. And with their, well, at first grandpa and then uncle. Although technically I think he was great uncle, but whatever. In this tower block, and they're trying to like make their way in life, and he explains the way in which it basically mirrors the way in which people lived in the former Yugoslavia. It was brilliant. I was like, oh, of course that would make sense to them. Of course they would take to that. Why wouldn't they take to that? It's about people desperately struggling in an economic situation that's far beyond their control. They live in an awful, shitty, high-rise tower block with a member of their family because they can't afford not to. There isn't like a house for those other people. The police are all corrupt, on the take fuckers, and, you know, they're desperately, you know, striving for a better life. Like, yeah, that's Yugoslavia in the 80s, yeah. It was called Nelson Mandela House. Didn't I say that? Anyway. Kev, what type of leftist would you say you are? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Some kind of... I lean more towards anarchism, but I'm not an anarchist. because I don't think it's practical. Absolute anarchism, anyway. But like, I don't like authoritarianism. It fucking drives me mad.
Nothing comes of it. You might eventually be tempted to complain and ask publicly, "I'd like things to get better around here." And instead of some compromise being found, the result is that instead your name is put on a list. After a while of no progress, you will start to become despondent. And when such a despondent person kicks off and starts pushing for their basic human instinct for greater autonomy against the contradictions of the ruling elite, and the response is a wall gets put up, or soldiers from a foreign land no less come in with tanks and occupy your country, then you know sure as hell that something is up, that the answers you seek will never be found in a party pamphlet. After every progressive movement was repressed, is it any wonder why, by the 1980s, so many red blockers ended up praising Margaret Thatcher? Even though we in the West knew full well that that would be ridiculous, because we've lived it. It's not enough to talk about how when the East fell, not everybody got what they wanted. You have to ask what led so many people to desire something beyond their borders. You're going to get that kind of unrest in any place where class contradictions are still active. And if they are, then you take to the streets and you demand change. That's what we do now. We do not continue to have faith in the party. That's liberalism. I'd like to introduce you to Wolf.
That's liberalism. Hear that, tankoids? You're basically liberals.
Biermann. Wolf was a German Jewish musician, and a very interesting case because he was a West German who defected.
Yeah, I was about to say, I've heard this name before. He was a fucking musician who went to East Germany, and like the East Germans, didn't they ban him or something? I don't know. I don't think they killed him, but I think they banned his music.
To the East. And he left precisely because of his communism, and his belief that by doing so this would be the best way to further his ideals. He believed in it, as did all of his friends. They wanted to put themselves at the service of socialism, quite like many of us might say today were the opportunity to arise. But despite his dedication, the party didn't view highly of Wolf's younger, more gritty and non-conformist style, and he was eventually blacklisted from producing music. Later, whilst he was out of the country, he would have his entire citizenship revoked, all because of how he was perceived and suspected of by the ossified elite.
Brilliant. What a fantastic system. You can't even have communist folk music because that's, what, too Western? Brilliant. I'm not saying that's the reason for the AfD's rise in Eastern Germany. I'm just saying, like, it doesn't help.
I relate to Wolf's story on a very personal level, as I too am the victim of blacklisting for a place that I cared very deeply about. And
by the way, he's talking here. Jesus Christ. He's talking about Discord. There was a communist Discord he got banned from, right? Which is funny because, like, this man had his fucking citizenship taken from him. Like, perspective. Mother flipper.
Wanted to make better. But unfortunately, like all places which have hierarchies, if you don't fit in with those in charge, if you don't always go along with the game, if you call out bad practice when it happens, then often it's game over. Let me reiterate, all of these people were communists. And if my experience is anything to go by, I can only imagine what horrible disillusionment he and his friends must have felt as they saw all of this promise turn...
Why does his moustache look like one of those fake glue-on moustaches? Like, it probably isn't, but it looks like one. And he's stuck with it. All of these pictures got the same fucking tash. Maybe that's what they weren't down with. They were like, no, ban him. His tash looks a bit weird. Probably a capitalist.
Foul at the hands of what I can only describe as stuffy, paranoid headmasters. And it's undoubtedly that denial of progress which is what led Wolf to eventually...
Still got it. Look how fucking grey he is in that. He's still got the same fucking... It's not even... He hasn't fully committed to the walrus tash. He hasn't gone full diabetes. He hasn't Wilf Brimley'd it, right? But he hasn't like cut it off to being like a normal moustache. He's gone for... You can't half and half it. You know what? I agree with you. I agree with Erich Honecker. Okay? You deserve to be kicked out of East Germany because of your weird both sidesing of the walrus tash. Just saying.
Moderate his stances. If the revolution is not about the day-to-day and how we live, then what's it all worth? There's no prefiguration here. You're not showcasing a character of the world you would want to live in. You're just telling people to get in line, trust those above you, and we'll just have to make do with the alienation that comes out of it. Because, God forbid, have you seen the other side? We have to constantly remind ourselves, what do we mean when we say communism? What matters first and foremost is our satisfaction, I'd argue. Our ability to fulfill ourselves to the fullest in a reciprocal and sustainable way. And to get there, we need to have the correct foundations. I don't think there's anything petty bourgeois about that. But what about the material conditions, I hear you ask? That's a common talking point. You can't just be idyllic. You've got to see what was there before and what led to such things occurring. Often we used to say, I'm not defending the USSR, I'm just highlighting the material conditions they had. We would want nothing less than what you want, but they couldn't do it at that time. Well, the material conditions line, I must say, after a while, becomes kind of laughable. Because whilst ignoring conditions is certainly not a good thing, essentializing them is not good either.
True.
In fact, far from expanding nuance, placing such emphasis on conditions can severely limit our critical thinking. Ideology also plays a role. The actions that you'll take in response to said scenarios is very important. It's the same reason why two different ideologies will come to a very different solution to the same problem. Everybody wants to ignore internal contradictions and just focus on external ones whenever it affects them. Conditions are also not as set in stone as many might presume either. In the essay The Unknown Revolution by Russian anarchist Volin, he asks, what if Germany crushed France in 1914? It would go down in
what if? What if?
History as an inevitability that, of course, Germany was going to win. Objectively, they had the best army. Yet we all...
That's the point, right? It's so annoying. When people do this, they assume that the way things worked out was the way it was always going to have worked out. And those people have a fundamental misunderstanding of humanity. Yeah, for reals is. I fucking hate it. I sense a smugness. Is that from me or not? Because I am smug. I am very smug. And I make no apologies for it.
Know that France was able to exploit flaws and errors in the general's attack and eventually push them back beyond the Marne. Had the Schlieffen Plan been adhered to properly, had France's generals made different decisions, we might well be living in a very different world, despite said conditions being exactly the same.
See, you say that, but they'd all have still just been foreign. So, like, does it matter if it's all Germany or all France? I ain't give a fuck. They're all foreign. Do you know what I mean? They're all not speaking the right language. And none of them... Either way, none of them are playing cricket. So, like, fuck them. Dickheads.
So they're certainly not all constant or objective, are they? To keep within the Marxist terminology, they are also variable. Just like our France showed that their fate was not determined, so too can we see that due to variable factors, they were also possible in Russia. If the Bolsheviks failed, we all would have been looking for excuses as to why this was clearly inevitable. Yet we know that things turned out differently. You never know if something is going to turn out the way you expected. But if there's potential, then perhaps you ought go with what you consider right, not simply presuming that something is predetermined. From this, we tend to give the victors the benefit of the doubt. It's always just assumed that the revolutionaries in power only ever did the best that they could with what they had. Why do we never question whether or not they could have done better? Or were these merely excuses? I refer you back to Kronstadt. There was an attempt made there, it was denied. The workers were striking, a practice, I'll remind you, which is usually agreed upon when it comes to attacking capitalism, despite managers claiming...
Well, that's another thing. I can't be on board with the MLs because they want to destroy trade unions, basically, because they only need one trade union in the workers' state. You know, the one where the workers have absolutely no fucking say in it whatsoever. Yeah, those one. Like, I'm sorry, if you want to destroy trade unions, you're no better than the fucking Tories then. You're no better than the fascists. Like, get fucked.
Oh, no, it can't be done. But when they're striking against nominal socialist powers, then suddenly such collective bargaining is wrong.
Good night, Seamstress Dragon.
Despite aiding their struggle, the Soviets constantly portrayed the Black Army as bandits, conflated them with other armies that weren't involved with what Makhno and all that were doing, and had them crushed. Because if not for adherence to Soviet legitimacy, then the revolution would have been in danger. What revolution are you defending here? When you're using these conditions for a state as a reason to explain away their actions, then you're showcasing a sympathetic baseline. Ends before means logic. Let's take an example of a topic that I certainly need to atone for. The DDR did have an awful lot of bad conditions. It took upon the majority of the refugees. It had a much smaller productive output than West Germany. The Soviets were taking away their factory infrastructure. They had to pay them reparations, and so on and so on. What you get from that is a brain drain. This might explain the steps that the DDR took, but it doesn't suddenly follow that we make a positive value judgment simply because of what they had to deal with. Guess what? All systems have to deal with stuff. The people behind...
Yeah, like if your system can only work if it has the perfect conditions at the beginning, your system is worthless. Your system is intellectual masturbation. It's literally pointless, you even fucking telling me about how fantastic your system is, because the conditions necessary for it to possibly work are never going to occur. So it's utopian drivel. Yeah, you had some shit to deal with. Did West Germany, was that not bombed to shit as well? Like, what the fuck? Every system has some shit to fucking deal with, yeah. Like, capitalism didn't get going in perfect conditions either. Capitalism had loads of shit running against it, and yet managed to establish itself. Because it was better than the system it replaced, ultimately. And was able to create a power structure more powerful than the one it replaced. Royalty. Or aristocracy, I guess, whatever. And what you need is a system that can replace this one. Not a system that can only replace perfection that already existed. Because what's the point of that?
Behind the wall are just like you and me. If you're justifying building it on the basis that they wouldn't have been able to create socialism if they lost them all, have a look at where that logic is leading you. You're treating people like cogs in a machine, denying them of their agency. That's a them problem. Why does that matter to me? If your answer to that is that the socialist state does matter because it stands in support of the grand majority, then you need to showcase that in their actions, not just assume that they were. Authority is to be questioned. And a visible showcase that your society cannot function without force reveals the system bare naked for all to see. But what's often ignored is that in many instances material...
See, that's his kind of anarchist thinking, and I think that you can tell that he used to be an anarchist before he was an ML, because that kind of mental process would never just exist within an ML straight up, right? The idea that you can have any system without force is, I think, impossible. I don't think you can have a civilization without some semblance of force. Like, it's unfortunate, but sometimes, like, bad people exist. Sometimes people outside of your particular group wish to do your group harm. These things need to be both protected against initially and defended against when they happen. That will entail a certain amount of force. That's just true. I don't know what to tell you. Like, This is the point. Having no state in place isn't workable. It just isn't. I'm sorry. If someone's like going around fucking killing people, you need to have some sort of body that can deal with that. Not literally a body who can deal with being like stabbed. You need fuck the police as they currently exist. They're cunts. But you need some kind of, like, you need to be able to have some kind of authority to say, okay, this person is fucked up in some way. They need to be cared for. It's not just a matter of punishment, but this person can't be allowed to exist in society because they're clearly very dangerous, and you need to be able to take that person away to a hospital/prison, because again, they can't leave, so it is a prison, even if it's got beds and nurses and fucking lots of drug. Well, actually, prisons have lots of drugs, lots of prescription drugs. They can't leave. They're under lock and key. It's a fucking prison. Okay, it's a prison/hospital, a prospital, or a hison, if you will. And that needs to exist, regardless of what society you want to build, regardless of what economic system you have, regardless of how big a society you have. You're going to need some kind of effective safety mechanism. And that ultimately forms some kind of state. ML, Mevin Logan, basically Kev's Waluigi. Basically, yeah. No, it's Marxist-Leninist is what ML stands for. St. Mark's Cemetery is a cemetery in the Landstrasse district of Vienna. Used grave. It contains the unmarked grave of the composer Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Why is it called Marx then? That doesn't make sense. It's also closed. Okay. No, fucking bad. Yeah, weird. Well, I forget what East German city used to be called Karl Marxstadt. It was literally Karl Marx City. So what you're saying, Kev, is more Quangos. We do need more Quangos. That is true. Thoughts on Marx and his work? I haven't really read enough to be able to give you a full breakdown, but he seems like a very... clearly he was a genius. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Anyone who can inspire that level of support over centuries clearly is a genius. He was also wrong about some stuff, though. But again, I'm not like an expert, so I'm not going to pretend to fucking give you some sort of proper breakdown of it. Chemnitz in Germany. There we go, yeah. What about the Prispital Industrial Complex? You people are fucking silly. And I love you.
Well, conditions don't really play much of a role at all. Story time. During my travels across Europe some years ago, I stopped off in Bucharest for a while. During which I saw the famous civic district built under Ceausescu, decorated at the end of a long boulevard with the enormous palace of the parliament.
By the way, you should definitely look into Ceausescu, one of the most absurd of all of the Eastern Bloc dictators. Genuinely fascinating creature. Unbelievable that he existed. Only a system as fucking dumb, I think, as Marxism-Leninism could have chewed up and spat out such a creature. And also there's video of him and his wife being shot to death. And before you say, like, oh, what about his wife? No, his wife was also an evil bitch. Don't worry about that. They both copped it and deserved it. And only a system as absurd as capitalism could, spew out Donald Trump or fucking Boris Johnson or whatever. And his wife with her very real PhDs. Yes, totally not made up. Totally, she was absolutely a scientist, honest guys.
And what I found so odd when walking up the street was a real sense of, is this really it? Despite the grandness of the buildings, they didn't feel very warm or inviting. Instead, they...
To be fair to old Ceausescu, And one does not want to be fair to him because he was a cunt. But you're not exactly seeing Bucharest the way he wanted it to be seen. For a start off, when those buildings were new, they probably looked nicer. And before the decades of capitalist shock therapy fuckery of Bucharest, again, they probably looked a bit nicer. Like, you can't... It's like saying, oh, this Build-A-Bear bear isn't very good after it's been chewed up by a dog. Like, it was probably fine when it left the store. But then the dog chewed it up like fuck. And then you saw it and didn't, like... You didn't put the... You haven't computed the dog chewed it to fuck. Yeah.
Felt cold and lifeless. Honestly, reminding me of some of the fascist architecture I'd seen in Berlin and Nuremberg. And then you see the palace. A building so big that less than half of it is being used and it's slowly sinking into the ground. Again, it's monumental, but it's soulless. And it's ugly. And you look into the circumstances in which it was built and you go, this is it. This is what you...
As Friends Russ with a delightful Romania-based joke, did Ceausescu dye his hair blonde in 1998 too? No, he did not, because A, he never played for the Romanian national football team, and B, he didn't dye his hair because he died of extreme gunshot wounds several years before. So, yeah.
You thought was a good use of your time. During a period of severe economic recession, you kicking tens of thousands of people out of their homes and conscripting tens of thousands more to make yourself a vanity project. What do conditions have to do with the criminalizing of abortion that occurred under Ceausescu? There really was no economic or ideological pressure for them to do that under any metric. They're not your baby-making cogs, Nick. Now, this all occurred under a self-proclaimed socialist government, for the good of the people. If you were living as a contemporary supporter, you might well have been going, you think you know more than the party? It doesn't require much imagination. You see folks talking about China like this all the time. But I'd like you to genuinely ask yourself, does this really represent for you what a communist society will be working towards? Does vain monumentality and sexist restrictions to your bodily autonomy truly represent the ideas that Marx and others spoke about all those
Yes. Sorry, no.
years ago? Or does it represent something that should be looked upon with loathing and scorn, not representative of any democratic will, but merely the narcissism of powerful men? Now that's a cheap shot, right? Wasn't Nikolai a bit of a black sheep in red bloc canon? What matters is that the foundations of Leninist ideology enabled such a position to emerge, for him to grow and abuse his power, and build a fancy swimming pool. Writing him off as an outlaw...
To be fair, that's quite a nice swimming pool. I like that swimming pool, I'm just going to say.
Is misguided because the ideology granted his legitimacy. Ideology, like I've said, has a lot to do with what possibilities will form. I'll give you a good example. In Spain, Mujeres Libres, the women's radical movement, formed organically during the Civil War. This isn't to say that there were no contentions between them and the people in the CNT. They were never formally recognized, and many times such groups insisted that WOMs needed to get back in the kitchen. But the fact that this group was even able to grow regardless speaks to the nature of the dominant ideology. It enabled such creativity. It favored a diversity of ideas. It favored distribution of power.
But the thing is, the MLs don't want that. They don't want a distribution of power. They want to be the tank. They want to be in the tank crushing people. They're basically fascists who also want collectivized farms.
Power. And because of that opportunity, they influenced their canon. And people today can look back at that irrespective of contemporary dismissals and learn from it. That was not allowed in the USSR. Such groups were dismissed and shut down as the revolution was considered to have solved all their questions. So as you can see, material conditions are not just an excuse you can use to justify any action. They are a necessary technicality, but not a sufficient one for this equation. They are not set in stone, they are susceptible to variation.
That is such a great description of Enver Hoxha. Meanwhile, Chad Enver Hoxha just used his dictatorial powers to exercise bunker autism. That is, I've never heard an entire governing power structure and its ideology described so perfectly and yet so succinctly. It's fucking brilliant. Absolutely amazing. It really was just bunker autism. Just build more bunkers and shit. Yeah.
Internal ideology matters just as much as external factors, and you need to be able to clearly place value judgments on such actors, not just settle for might makes right or numerical superiority. Ask yourself this question, because it's not as straightforward as it might appear. What made the USSR socialist? No, seriously. We just sometimes take this for a given. Obviously, I'm calling them actually existing socialism, but that's just a descriptor for the sake of words. The question of whether it actually even fulfills this metric is very much up for interpretation. The Soviet Union still had wage labor. It still had a hell of a lot of alienation. It still had a reserve army of labor, albeit in a less direct way. It still had commodity production. Yes, it did. It still had a stagnant, ineffectual system which was very much hostile to any change. People literally have to revise Marx in order to make all of this fit, which they do. Even on a line of more equal distribution than in the West, has some very glaring issues. The disparity of pay between Red Army officers and their privates was significantly more broad than their equivalents in the West. Hungarian secret police were paid 6 to 9 times the average salary, all of this whilst reparations were still being done. I'd assume that disparity was the same across most of the Eastern Bloc. Apparatchiks and diplomats of regimes have been very well documented to be corrupt and using their positions to do personal capitalism for themselves. It seems to me that Marxism-Leninism has a lot of explaining to do. Instead, what we get is another very defeatist argument. Well, you try and make a revolution. You'll end up just like them. The conditions didn't allow for your utopia. It's a lovely idea, but due to capitalist encirclement, the situation became
Well, this is the thing. If you're just going to say we'll just end up like them, then what you are saying is that socialism is impossible. That, I mean, to be fair, that is the thesis of the video. The defeatism of Stalinist arguments. Correct. If your argument is, well, you'll just end up exactly like them, what you are suggesting is that socialism cannot be achieved. So you're not a socialist. Again, you're just a fascist who wants collective farms. And not even like good, badass collective farms, like starving the kulak collective farms, you know?
Centralized and autocratic. This might otherwise be known as Parenti's razor, I suppose. Things are shit, live with it. It's the argument that every ML falls back on after a while, and frankly it just gets so, well, boring. I'm reminded back to the old days when people would expand upon topics like gender fluidity, and in response people would make uninterested claims like, well, if that's true, then I can identify as an attack helicopter.
Get the fuck, they can not play me all these mutants!
Hello there, RTP Talks. How the devil are you all? And the RTP Talkers. If that's at all what they're called. Anyway, hello there everybody. You can hit the follow button. If you want to, if you're new here. This is a bit of a weird one to come in on because this is not usually what I do. You've joined me on a strange day today. We're doing a show I do very rarely called Tankie Tuesday, where we look at weird, far left, far right,
Ladies
whatever,
and gentlemen,
communist
we got
people's shit.
Victory is ours!
Yeah, you might not enjoy it. I don't know. Stick around and find out.
It's made when receiving this information is believing that if something is not
Thank
as
you for
simple
the
as
raid,
a
by the way.
basic binary, then therefore the most extreme exaggerated straw is equally as valid. On a similar wavelength then I've noticed, just because revolution isn't as easy as some might believe, doesn't mean that every fault or misstep is permissible. It rests entirely upon how you interpret
Ladies
a
and gentlemen,
successful revolution.
we got 'em.
Marxist-Leninists will
Victory is
say that thing you
ours.
wanted couldn't be done due to their conditions, but at the same time, it was still socialism. Somebody else might come along and say that thing you wanted couldn't be done due to their conditions, they couldn't get to socialism, and because of that, it didn't represent existing socialism. Much of this debate just involves talking past one another, but ultimately that's what it boils down to. Do you consider it socialist despite such realities? Or do you dismiss it as not socialist due to the absence of required necessities? I know that people can get annoyed with the common left communist cliche of commodity production ad nauseum, and we can have a debate on that, but fact remains it does rely on a degree of concrete evidence. The former, on the other hand, opens the door for nearly anything to be labelled as socialism. And people will
literally, that's the thing. It is defeatist, yeah.
happily bend over backwards to make it so. You see, Margaret Thatcher was actually a socialist. Yeah. Unlike
Oh, don't make me hate the world.
the stuffy Eatonites who ruled the country before her, Maggie came from a salt-of-the-earth background, so she represented the proletariat far more than those guys. Yes, she repressed workers all the time, but they were filthy first-worlders, and, they were also hatching a secret fascist plot to destroy the country. So, yeah, they were bad. Maggie was always anti-fascist, proving it in her fighting against the dictatorship of Argentina. Maggie cared deeply about the environment and supported the global south, and she developed the productive forces of the economy which turned it away from dependency. Commodity production, you might ask? Please. Socialism is a process, and as such in the early stages it is unreasonable to believe that the commodity form has to
No, Danny, I think he's just doing like a silly joke to explain the point.
be abolished. You don't understand dialectical materialism. Now, get back to the coalpit until that time comes. Now, obviously that's an exaggeration, but a lot of the pointers I took there were from actual discussions I've
By the way, can we have some lols in chat for Thatcher still being dead? Because that is still very, very funny.
had. Defenses like these can be made for anybody as long as you're willing to ignore certain facts and apply different standards. So the result is you end up getting lost in the thick of it all and lose sight of your aims. Michael Parenti and his consequences. It's only natural to try and justify something that we've put a lot of work into. I'm not going to contest hardship or difficulties that might arise, but we ought be trying to get to the world that we want to live in, and be humble and accept that it didn't work if it genuinely did not. Not trying to pass it off as some new recipe, which, as I've stated, Marxist-Leninists have a historic habit of doing. When Soviet students started realizing that Marx's works closely mirrored the reality that they were living in, the authorities started altering the teachings and the very texts themselves to fit their agenda. Side point, when you bring up facts like these, there's always this funny reaction which arises that I've decided to call Schrodinger's revisionist. The response to my highlight here will be determined on whether it happened before or after the death of Stalin. If it happened afterwards, well, then it can simply be explained away that the revisionist line took hold and everything that happened is dismissible if we don't like it.
True.
But if it happened before then, well, then it needs to be defended to some extent. This is great logic we're doing here, guys. As it happens, this is such an example, so it needs to be explained, which people, believe it or not, do. I also see as an aside to this an argument that I used to make myself. But your experiments weren't around long enough, and they weren't wide-scale enough to have to deal with all the things that the USSR and China had to. This is true to some extent. Those attempts didn't last. But does that mean that they would have inevitably followed the same path? It's debatable, and we also can't concretely prove that it would have ended up worse because they never reached that stage. We lack a 70-year-long double-blind experiment for comparison. But what we can do is look at the initial years, compare and contrast how they went down, and hypothesize whether a different ideology would have led to different outcomes. You know, science. Even if we were to
It's a hypothesis, but yeah, okay.
give the benefit of the doubt and admit that the most libby-lefty revolution might engage in authoritarian practices after a while, what conclusion does that lead us to? That MLs are right and that theirs is the only alternative? No. The degradation is highly likely. Why are Marxist-Leninists so certain that their methodology is the least harmful? Or the
This is the thing. If Marxist-Leninists are right, If Marxist-Leninists are right, and that socialist revolution always leads to their society, then I'm not a socialist. And we need to come up with a new thing, whatever that is, that, you know, has some of the precepts of socialism but doesn't end up like that. Because that is fucking unacceptable. But the good thing is, they're not right. So fuck them.
The least prone to degradation. This assumption often goes unchallenged. There could be many other approaches which haven't been tried yet, and due to the prevalence of Marxism-Leninism on the world stage...
Yeah, Marxism-Leninism hasn't even been tried yet.
There weren't culpable avenues allowed for those alternatives to flourish. There's no certainty that theirs is the only way. It just happens to be the one that has survived historically. And survival alone is not enough to prove superiority, which I'll address further in Section 4. Now, complications will certainly arise. There's no expectation here for utopia, but the test of a revolution, I'd argue, is not whether or not you can defend it, which doesn't inherently speak to the character of a revolution. But if we can change the world, face all of the problems that a fledgling capitalism will throw at us, and still hold true to our convictions despite everything, then we will have ourselves a structure and an ideology.
Then you will be a man,
defending.
my son.
We will have a new world, a better world, that proves itself in its actions. That would be a success. And if this ends with some old man telling me I support every revolution except the ones that succeed, so be it. I don't happen to hold anymore that control over oppressive systems is a particularly valid interpretation of success.
Yep.
There is an argument that the revolution in Russia was dependent...
Look, if Stalinism is success, I want failure. Just saying.
...upon expanding, and since it couldn't expand into Europe, the resulting bureaucracy and degradation is what you got. I'm inclined to sympathize with this analysis, but that it showcases a flaw in the workflow, necessitating the revolution on being worldwide. Even still, why does that mean that you have to defend what came about? Why do we resign ourselves to, this is the best we can do now, and, oh, well, I guess we'll just have to become socialist cops? Because if that's really what you have to become in order to defend the revolution, then what are you even defending? So I think...
Madcat, what are you getting mad about? What have I said that's so terrible?
We're all in agreement on the left that social transformation is hard. If we're admitting this, why is it so hard for some of us to articulate this also hefty task? Why are so many communists settling for defeat? And as a final reminder,
that's the point.
The Bolsheviks didn't become centralized and repressive because of capitalist encirclement. They did so in spite of it. It was literally nailed into the nucleus of their ideas. Democratic centralism was the theory of Lenin long before he ever came back to Petrograd. The conditions might change the severity of an action, but the core remains the same. After the Bolsheviks achieved power, there were still plenty of anarchists and non-Leninist Marxists hanging around.
Now that is a delightful beard. A beard that's so fucking dense that in a black and white picture it looks, I don't even know what to say. It looks like a fucking balaclava on his fucking face. It's delightful.
Were the situation not as white as it was, what are you going to do with them? This brings us neatly onto the topic of authoritarianism. When people highlight the authoritarianism of existing Marxist-Leninist states and whatnot, opponents will respond that any revolution is inherently authoritarian by its nature. So stop getting ants in your pants and just accept that it's going to happen no matter what. This is known as the on-authority argument, and it comes from the essay of the same name by Friedrich Engels. Now, confession time...
Again, we have seen a genuinely delightful array of facial hair. If there's one thing that Marxism in the modern world is missing, it's delicious facial hair. There's just not enough of it. Okay? You could win a lot more people around if you had... I mean, that's not a beard. That's a way of life. Look at it. How do you even eat? How do you eat with that on your face? I don't know. And you know what? He doesn't look gaunt. Red beans and rice don't miss her. Okay? Beautiful.
I'm here. I've never been a fan of the on-authority defense. People always seem to state that it's some kind of slam dunk. Yeah, you destroy those idealists in 4 pages. And I'm looking at it and I'm going, really? This is it? You can call it an anarchist hangover if you want, but I just found it to be too short and seemingly incomplete when it came to the arguments and points that were being made. Irregardless, I put it to the back of my head.
Irregardless. Stop being American. Stop it. Stop it. You know what you're doing. I let you get away with a yawl earlier, okay? I let that slide because I thought, you know what? You get what you get one. You get a freebie, okay? I'm not letting irregardless go. That is fucking unacceptable. Irregardless. If he says a whole nother, I'm going to fucking lose it. I'm going to actually lose my head. Fact.
Until it could stay there no more. Now first I will admit that some people are quite willy-nilly when it comes to the word authoritarianism. Mostly though, this is found in the character of the people who use them. Hint hint. I once had somebody tell me that free market capitalist Hong Kong was a preferable alternative to authoritarian capitalist China. Yes, because that tells us absolutely nothing about the nature or hidden complexities of both economies, does it? But even if we can get past these trivialities, there are obvious qualitative differences being showcased by this word. Anybody in the modern world, hopefully, would argue that...
Yeah, could care less. Well, Atomic Power 93, maybe you missed my rant I had the other day about could care less. I did a whole little ranty rant about how Americans get that wrong. And to be fair, some British people get it wrong, and they're
the slave
fucking mental.
Owner beating and subjecting his slave would be an act of authority. We would look at this in a negative light. But what if the roles were reversed? Now it is the slave who is beating and subjecting his owner. In both scenarios, the action remains the same, but the context is very different. The master is getting his slave's labor. The slave is simply regaining his freedom. You could just continue to claim that both are authoritarian and leave it there. Sure, some people claim that indigeneity is just those that were there first. But when we're trying to analyze present issues, does that definition really help us? Right-wingers who use this argument are just flattening the meaning so they don't have to budge from their pre-existing biases, and don't need to care about the plight of genuinely oppressed indigenous people, because if this is true, well then there's always one
Jesus Christ, stone toss, no why.
Before. So conquer all you want, I suppose, 'tis the way of humankind. We need to look at the complexities on the ground, apply real critical thought to human descriptions and come up with more useful definitions from it. It might be helpful to split these contexts into different categories, authority A and authority B. When most people are referring to authoritarianism, they're talking about authority A, subjugating others despite the alternatives available. They're making the distinction with authority B, which is simply a response to that. We might as well call this liberation. But, I hear you ask, isn't that the reason why the proles attacking the capitalists is different? They are liberating themselves from capitalism. Well, sort of. But what Leninists mistakenly do is interpret such actions as being okay because it is within their class interests. Again, things are relativized. But it's not right because it's within our interests, even though it might happen to motivate us. It's right because we're materially the ones who are being subjected. We are becoming more human by freeing ourselves and our oppressors from such immediate subjugation. If the slaves overthrew their masters, but then afterwards a small group of them emerged and just reinstated slavery amongst the other slaves, yet that you get a vote and that vote apparently represents the will of the slaves, that would not be a progressive plantation. MLs insist that their state of affairs protects the proletarian interests somewhat.
That's literally the point, is you're replacing one fucked up power structure where a corrupt elite are ruling over you with a different one with stars and sickles. Brilliant.
Blinding themselves to the...
Yeah, thanks lads. I feel a lot better being oppressed by Stalin instead.
Idea that in doing so, they might well be creating a whole new set of interests for those with the power of the guns. The purpose of a system is in what it does. I've literally had people telling me without a shred of thought, why would a state formed against global...
And I'm really glad he's like made his way out of this morass. But how did he ever get himself into it? Anyone who is capable of this level of thought should never become a ML anyway. Like, how did you even get into it? How did these things not occur to you on some level to begin with? How did you spend 4 years as this? Again, that is not the year I was born. Although I still have my youthful complexion, clearly, and I appreciate that 255. But that is not the year I was born, or hopefully the year I will die.
Capitalism turn against the working class? Or somehow believing that the people and state within these societies represented a single entity and thereby didn't have a hierarchy, which, as far as I'm concerned, is just living in a fairy tale. When you read further into Engels' views, he even purports that an engagement between two people represents an authority, on the basis that it will always involve giving up some degree of autonomy. This insistence upon, no, authority is authority always, might sound familiar to some of us. It's the same obfuscation that anarcho-capitalists use when defining capitalism as any voluntary transaction.
Yeah,
what
that's
about
true.
people claiming all lives matter? Or anti-feminists pining for egalitarianism? I'd like to think we've moved past those darker days. Please don't put yourself on.
I forgot he was on Joe Rogan. Do you remember when Joe Rogan used to have people like fucking Sargon and TJ Kirk on? And now he has the same people, but then fucking powerful instead. It's just Donald Trump, who is basically Sargon, but as president.
On the level of these guys, please. Now, you might find examples of authoritarianism emanating from, the detractors who say that authority is bad. Okay, that's great. Let's look at that, let's get into the nitty-gritty of it, and see what the on-the-ground reality looked like. And importantly, we'll compare it to what is being offered by your side. Because the claim of, well, what would you do in such and such a situation, how would you get water, how would you defend a revolution, etc., is incredibly limp coming from a side that has already doubled down on it, and whose message is to instate a system of effective wage labour, all in line, accept the legitimacy of the party, or fuck off. Have some perspective.
Yes! Oh, that's so beautiful. That's all you need. For me, that's all you need as a point. Fuck off. If you're going to be an authoritarian cunt, fuck off. I don't need to really argue with you about stuff. I can do. I'm educated enough and experienced enough that I can do that. But I prefer to just say fuck off, because that's all you are to me, is like beneath contempt. You're beneath contempt, you're beneath refutation. If you insist that I have to be subjugated for your revolution, fuck off.
And talking about perspective, need I state the obvious? Yes, of course Engels is going to obfuscate the definition of authority.
I'll leave those whiskers for a second. Yes, this is it. We've got the official one. The correct year. So the year I will die is 2233. Can I do the mathematics on this? I will be 250 years old. No, I won't. Shit. 246 years old. Depending on exactly when I die in the year. It could be 2, 4 or 5. So, but I will live to be that age. And do you think in those 246 years that I will ever see a good Birmingham City team? Probably not. Probably not, to be honest. I mean, we've already had 120 odd years and not had one, so... Yeah, no.
He was the heir to a cotton mill, for goodness sake. So
No, 100 and... Hang on. It's been over... Yeah, no, it's 150 years, isn't it, this year? 2024, 150 years. Yeah. We've had 150 fucking years. And we haven't won an FA Cup or a league title. Oh, suck a dick.
if you do find yourself reading On Authority, Be cautious, approach it with an open mind, and, really question whether you think it checks out. Or are you just telling yourself that because you want something with nice little sound bites that will woo your side? Because if you dare type in the words "on authority response" into Google,
Indeed, yeah, Barry Ferguson was fucking quality midfielder. And he's going to take over a dying football club, so that's fun.
We'll quickly find a litany of
Get the
responses
fuck,
made
they came not play me all these mutants.
Welcome in,
Get the fuck-
mutants! Welcome in, mutants! Hello there, Tina 2 and Tina 2 Raiderinos. Hello there. You may see me occasionally pop up in Tina's chat. A lot of the time I will murk? Or even lurk. Fucking kill me. Hello everybody. You can hit the follow button. If you're new here, hello. You can hit the follow button. Now, you join me on an odd occasion because I don't usually do this kind of stream. This is a series I do very rarely called Tankie Tuesday, where we look at weird, dumb tanky shit. Always not on a Tuesday. That's the joke of the title. Ha ha ha. And we look at how tankies are dickheads. So you can stick around for that, or if that's not your kind of thing and you prefer the kind of content Tina does, then join me on a normal day, because that's the sort of thing I do, but less well. But either way, hit the follow button, because it's sexy. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Everyone go and follow Tina too. She's awesome.
decades. Take your pick. Marxism-Leninism, like I said, is very popular the world over, especially in the global south. And who are you to dismiss such mass movements that use said ideology? Firstly, let me state the obvious. The abundance of an idea does not make the idea proper.
True.
You only need to look at religion or current-day status quo beliefs in order to see that for yourself. The reason for its prevalence is because of
Link me that video then, Thomas, and I will play that instead. I'm fine with that, yeah.
the influence of such an ideology. That's it. There's nothing inherently more special about it than that.
John, don't be like that. That's rude. Don't get me wrong. I'm not asking you to like Tina. You can like or dislike whoever you are. But like, if someone raids in, they're being nice, they're a friend of the channel, don't be fucking rude to them, please. If you don't like them, fine, don't watch them. You can even say, look, I'm not a fan of their content, fine. Don't be fucking rude about them though, please. I rarely chastise in a genuine sense. Actually, I forgot about this, didn't I? Right, where are we? Boom, sincerity cam. No jokes here. Don't be fucking rude to people like that, please. I don't chastise seriously on this channel very often. I'm not a hectoring person in that way. But if someone raids in, don't be a prick to them. They're being nice. If you don't like their content, don't watch them. Fine. Anyway, where was I? Yes.
Prove my point. In a lot of Latin America, Trotsky was able to spread his influence. Hence, Trotskyism is a lot more popular there than it is in other places in the world. If you're making ice pick jokes then, you're spitting in the face of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Trotskyists in the global south. I think you...
Oh, as a Bradford fan... Where was it, sorry? I totally lost the plot. Oh, hello, Turn Left and the Turn Left viewers. Hello, Turn Left viewers. You can hit the subscribe button because it's fucking sexy. Hello. Everyone go and follow Turn Left on YouTube. But do you do Twitch now, Turn Left? I don't know. But either way, go and follow them. They're fucking awesome. What was it? As a Bradford fan, I was impressed with Birmingham the other week. Good luck for the final, Kev. Thank you, Daily Blase. Much love. Good luck with the rest of your season. Also, you can give me money if you wanted to, chat. That's a thing you can do. What is this? Oh, that's my death date again. Thank you. Yeah, bits, messages, super chats, membership, subscriptions, all of that shit. For fuck's sake. Yes, I can hear you, Clem Fandango. You're dead. You're fucking old, man. God damn.
You can see why that wouldn't work. I've actually had trots in the past throw around token representation as a sort of in-your-face point, and I'm like, yeah, cool, your ideas are still boring as fuck. I'm sorry, but look, please, trots, do better.
Do
in
better.
In the cases of an example
Seriously.
like China, which boasts a 90 million strong communist party, well, we know from past experiments that party membership is a key method of progression in such states, not necessarily an indication of support. So you can't just point to large numbers there. And for the record, China is capitalist. There's no debate to be had there. Dengists,
Yeah.
leave.
Yeah, Dengists leave and go into a wood chipper in Minecraft. Thank you, Dr. Phil Decker, with 100 bits. Just nipped out for a bottle of wine, so have some bits while I get pished. Yes. Getting drunk is always a good solution to life's problems, is what I find. Definitely. Is Turn Left not a member on YouTube? Can someone donate a membership? Membership? No. What are they called? Yeah, membership on YouTube. I've got to have a celebrity member. Giggity. That would be up there when someone donated Bernie Sanders a subscription on Twitch. Because he literally knows Adolf Hitler. He met him. He's got a whole thing on his the end of his videos from actual Hitler. Mad. Kev, I just tagged you on Blue Sky. I think I figured out what Darren Grimes was talking about. I mean, does Darren Grimes even know what Darren Grimes is talking about? Probably not. What is this? Back then, we didn't have much. Life was... Oh, that thing. Okay. For God's sake. I'm not sure I can show that. It is funny. It's from the Euros with the England football fan who put a smoke flare thing into his anus. Now, you don't really see anything, right? Don't get me wrong. You don't really see anything. But... you do see arse cheeks.
Like a baby otter.
You do see arse cheeks, and I think that might be verboten on the old YouTubes. So, yeah, no. Thank you, Endora, for gifting a sub to Brett James, who isn't even the... You gifted a sub, but not to the person I said. But okay, I mean, you don't have to take a fucking... You don't have to take orders from me. I'm not an authoritarian. Is Turn Left the channel run by Curtis Daly? Yes, it is. He of the Turning Point Lefts. It was a bit of a bummer. That is a bit... I'm cracking up at that one. Cracking up.
I would also invite you to the idea that just because a group is communist on paper doesn't mean that they're up to scratch. They might boast large numbers and communist iconography, but they can be highly reformist in practice.
But that's all that tankies care about. Do you have a big red flag with a star on it? I'm in. I don't care if you're beating up minorities and denying everybody rights and it's basically just capitalism but fucking worse. Do you have big red flags and tanks? Because I like those things. Kev, I don't think we can directly give subs. Is that true? YouTube need to sort their shit out, man. They need to sort their shit out. Fucking disgraceful.
In my country, the OG Communist Party of Great Britain just tails alongside unions these days and doesn't do much apart from marches or an occasional pilgrimage to Cuba. Some of the most hard-line ones have just become opportunistic, out-of-touch weirdos. Most communist parties in Europe of any real size are what you might call Euro-communist. And then there's groups like the PSL, A abuser defending, ambulance chasing, members as wages, out of touch, working with the police, cultish populist party of sorts who really do not have the best intentions for those they seek to represent. And if even half of what I just said there was true, you can hopefully see...
It just gives one at random. Oh, well, YouTube, sort yourself the fuck out, will ya? Unbelievable. Okay, can people, like, gift loads and loads and loads of memberships on YouTube until Turning Point randomly gets one? That's all you need to do. That's it.
that it's probably not worth your time. But what about the third world? There is the proclivity for MLs to point to some omnipotent global South communist current as emblematic of how their ideology is so much better, even if their Western equivalents are always trash. The biggest Indian Communist Party might seem big and cool, but take a look...
Curtis, thank you. You didn't need to do that, but I appreciate that much love. Curtis sorted themselves out. Curtis became a member on the YouTube. And that's, you know what? What better endorsement for becoming a member on the YouTube than the fact that you can be in the same club as Turning Point Left? I don't know why I've reverted to calling them that again. That's very silly. But you could be that cool. You could literally, that makes you 1 degree of separation away from Adolf Hitler. Just saying.
Little bit of a closer look, and it's far from being desired. They're perfectly fine with endorsing private capital to up their game. I've looked into it, and yeah, it's not really giving me much confidence. Can't see that decision going awry anytime soon. They're also, in practice, electoralists. Some commentators have compared them to social democratic formations. Ultimately...
Okay, but like... Can you... okay, this is one, right? Can you be a communist and fight in elections? Because you seem to be suggesting that that would be impossible. You seem to be suggesting here that because they run in elections, that means they're not really communist. Which seems like a profoundly silly thing to do. Like, I'm not suggesting you can achieve absolutely everything you want through the ballot box. I am suggesting that you can achieve quite a bit and make the world a slightly better place. And gain yourself a significant outlet with which to talk to people and convey your ideas on a national and indeed international basis. So, like, that's fine. Rather than sitting around doing fucking shit meetings in the back room of a pub where 12 people turn up and you talk about how you're definitely going to do a revolution and then everyone goes home and forgets about it. Do you know what I mean? Thank you to Super Tiny Bob for gifting a sub to the, I mean, I'm going to guess, Polishly named Piotr Fietza. Yes.
Ultimately, they aren't fighting for any revolution. Not to mention, just like all of their equivalents, they're becoming increasingly ossified and out of touch. When I see this sort of practice, it spells very clearly to me that they've degraded and settled into comfort and conformity, with incentives to remain non-antagonistic. You have other things like the Kerala model and so forth, but I wouldn't say that they're socialist in practice, with most of the economic income being from outsourced service workers in the Middle East. Kerala is decidedly working within the given economic model, so social democracy in other words. Generally speaking, the only groups in the past 35 years who are actually engaging in any kind of principled struggle against the state in the Leninist branch are the Maoists, the very groups that CPIM are opposed to. That doesn't necessarily mean that I think Maoists have the right idea, but I do at least give them some credit for having the guts to grab a rifle instead of a recliner. But getting back to that bit about numbers, let's consider why they're so prevalent. We might do ourselves a service to really take a look at how surviving legacies might affect our current day outlooks. The Bolsheviks took power in a revolution. Most of the work had been done prior to them becoming a bigger thing, but no matter. They took state power in a very large, very
See, this is what I mean, right? That, right there, left of picture, boom, walrus moustache. That, Walt Biermann embarrassed himself by both sides in the walrus moustache. That would befit any kind of walrus. It's fucking beautiful. It's a sculpture. It's a work of art on his face.
Resource-rich area, which eventually spanned 15% of the entire world. They would then spread their newfound influence across the globe. Those alternative communist strategies to the Leninist way would be crushed by them or become Bolshevized. Those groups which remained would then have the privilege of their coffers. The Italian Communist Party, for example, was getting bucket loads of money. They could then have a leg up over anybody who remained.
Yeah,
in the case of something
the
like...
CIA would still ban them. The CIA would still make sure that they didn't get in. Even if the Italian electorate wanted it, you know. But, you know, America doesn't do imperialism, because it's not an empire. It's not an empire. What are you talking about?
Cuba, it was basically realpolitik. They were initially just nationalists with some communists inside of them. But after the US overreacted, they had no choice but to find help from another world power. If you do speak Spanish, I'd recommend listening to this quite revealing interview that Castro did in 1959, where from what I hear, he appears to be very sympathetic towards remaining within the US sphere of influence. They would monopolize the very idea of communism for several generations, and when the West fear-mongered about them, it only solidified their perceived legitimacy in the eyes of Western dissidents. People like Angela Davis used to fight for the prisoners in her own country, yet would be very dismissive when such things were happening over in the Red Bloc. It doesn't matter whether we agree with them or not. That's how it happened. They won a revolution, and the people followed. That legacy is now the legacy that a lot of the capital C communist left takes their influence from. They were able to. They had the army. They had the land. They had the spies. They had the capital. When you're claiming that Marxist-Leninists were the most successful at revolution, what's more accurate is that they were the most successful at dominating and crushing all their opposition. Something, as I've said, is not a very good metric of success. In summary then, Mr. Parenti, survivor bias. It's quite sobering to do even some cursory research into what were the most abundant tendencies in Japan, Cuba, China, Korea, Vietnam, prior to the expansion of Leninism.
To be fair, the CIA has gotten very shit at overthrowing countries. There's no way they'd have allowed Venezuela to happen back in the day. They've tried to overthrow it and it failed. The best they could do was fucking Branson going over and doing a stupid fucking rock concert on the border and trying to sneak in some nails and barbed wire. That's the best you could do. 12 special ops going in via fucking rubber dinghy but taking their passport with them. They're fucking shit. Like, you gotta hand it to them, just in terms of pure Machiavellianness. The CIA were fucking brilliant back in the day. Awful. Once you add in the morality of it, awful, evil bastards, right? Completely undemocratic, supporting fascist junta after fascist junta. But very effective. Whereas now they're just rubbish. Now it's just embarrassing. Now Elon Musk's fucking sending them emails telling me, oh, which government did you overthrow in the last 5 days? And if you don't respond, then you're fired. That's the level you're at, America.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. Victory is ours.
Embarrassing. Hello there. I don't even know what fucking language that is. I don't mean to be rude. Genuinely, I don't know what language that is. But welcome. You are welcome. If you can understand what I'm saying in any way, and I don't know, but I presume you can,
like a baby otter.
But I don't know what language that is. Thank you, Angie Moffat, for becoming a member on the YouTubes. Fucking legend. Let's go.
100 years ago. And spoilers, it wasn't just a marketplace of ideas.
You can call me Egg. I will call you Egg. Hello, Egg.
There's a lot of blood and opportunism involved. And those legacies were largely lost to the popular record. Very slowly, and with great difficulty, mind you, that lost legacy of those prior movements is being reforged. Though it's not helped by the influence of Marxist-Leninists giving people the conception that they're somehow better because of examples and numbers. Are we genuinely following said people because their ideas are correct? Or are we simply following the ideas of the runner who was able to dodge the bullets? Or quite possibly was the one with the bullets? There's no Galileo gambit here. Losing doesn't make...
look at the fucking production values on that. That was fucking dope. Just watch the crazy graphics.
I know who was able to dodge the bullets.
I'd love to be able to put videos
or quite
to your
possibly
eyes.
was the one with the bullets. There's no Galileo
Boom.
Gambit here.
Oh,
Losing doesn't make you
love it.
correct.
Love it.
But neither does winning.
It's simple, but that makes the video watchable. And it's lovely. I'd love to do that. But I'd have to put in so much energy, emotional energy, to learn how to do it that I'd probably just end up committing Minecraft. And that's not good.
Quote unquote. I've heard from some the seemingly good faith idea that we can learn from the problems of the past and move beyond them. We can separate the good from the bad and just go with the good. If you want the short answer to this from me, the flaw of this argument is that it fails to adequately assess the problems within the ideology itself.
What is that?
Castro's in.
Hang on.
The return of the sausages.
Kev, I feel a bit politically homeless as a young leftist, because I'm definitely anti-capitalist and no private property, but I'm against authoritarianism and also against total anarchism. I believe in revolution by any means necessary, but I'm also for a gradual move to the full end of capitalism. Like
what movement or party do I support? Because I don't like any. Do you feel the same? Very much so, Elliot. I mean, you are a regular, and thank you for the bits, by the way. You are a regular on this channel, and I think you will have picked up the vibe that I've been putting down about how fucked everything is, and how bad it is, and how there's like no hope at all anywhere, and that we should probably just do drugs and fuck. And that's only partly a joke. So yeah, I feel you. I feel you.
Castro's in for the surprise of his life when he tries signing something with my poison pen. Well, what have Palestinians done for the Black Lives Matter movement?
True. The CIA is dog shit. You see so much dumbass Fed posting online. You just think, oh God, who are these people? Like, no one talks this way. No one does this. Like, no one believes these things, do they? Maybe they do. Maybe I'm surrounded by even bigger fucking mutants than I thought.
insisting that it was simply a matter of practice and that next time we'll be better prepared. Being a recovering ML myself, I really feel that such actors, whilst probably coming from a really, really good place, are kind of deluding themselves. Sorry. That with the same ideological blueprint that might well give rise to all of these problems in the first place, we can just see what went wrong and then adjust so it doesn't happen this time? We just need to decouple the bad parts, I suppose.
Are you deliberately trying to quote from 1984 there, Miss Hire? There is hope in this chat, but only in the chat. Yeah. If hope exists, it exists in the chat. Or the proles. It's from 1985. The George Unwin book, 1985. His follow-up to Animal Factory. I did the meme.
Suppose. Where have we heard that one before? Your system cannot be the answers to your own contradictions. I haven't mentioned any names in this video, but I do want to bring up one example now on the fact that we do have a little bit of history together and he's become quite popular. A prime example of somebody who does this is the YouTuber Hakim.
Oh, yes! Drama! 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 All aboard the drama llama, people. Let's fucking go. Toot toot!
Hakim even made a video supposedly summarizing the faults of the USSR. But watching it, I have to say I was very much unsurprised and unimpressed. The rhetoric put forward here is not so much a critique as much as it is a form of lampshading. The act of hand-waving the discussion on without getting to the meat of the problems, but appearing as though you have. In this case, making surface-level critiques of much more systemic issues to showcase as self-crit. This then allows you to, as has been observed, repeat similar lies and uphold the same ideology, but with the veil of being nuanced and transparent. If The foundational apparatuses set up by Lenin point towards obedience and control and submission to the most advanced of the party, instead of consulting the knowledge of people more skilled in a given area, to make a nucleus cadre on behalf of the working class not led by the working class themselves. Is it really any surprise, then, that the result you get is people who are feared to be criticized? That this creates career party boys, leading to a further separation between them and the rank and file. I think the takeaway is to structure your society in a way that these challenges can be
That's the... okay, that's from... I was trying to work out which communist is that? I don't recognise this one. And then I realised that's the Central Committee member guy from fucking the Chernobyl miniseries. Fucking hell. Shabina, I think was his surname. He was a real person that existed, but that's an actor who played him in a television recreation of the Chernobyl. Yeah. I was like, I don't recognise him. I was like, it looks a bit like... It does look a little bit like Milosevic, but that's not Milosevic.
avoided organically, i.e., stop giving democratic centralism such an untouchable premise. Figure out alternative methods of organisation which don't create such contradictions in the first place.
RFK
Hakim's
Jr.
analysis and conclusion from this is that it was bad, and that next time they should just make a few policy changes. Again, the ideology is
fucking
flawed,
Brezhnev.
it's just the wrong decisions. This is not conjecture. If you're just going to make excuses for all of the stuff that happened in the past now, you're just going to keep on making excuses the next time a revolution occurs.
Yeah. I was right.
It's become apparent to me that this inability to constructively critique yourself,
Rogasov
to
and
grow
Shabina.
and expand your horizons and so forth, makes Marxism-Leninism an insufficient lens by which to analyse the situation,
Jacked
nor an
Milosevic.
effective mode by which to solve it. Take a look at this defense of anti-imperialist icons in Hakim's video, What is a Tankie? That topic sounds familiar.
Having a critically supportive overview of, for example, Gaddafi isn't based in anti-Americanism, but is based in tangible benefits the administration brought to Libya. Being critically supportive of the Syrian government's attempts at piecing the nation back together after being ravaged by US-backed militias of all ideological stripes doesn't emanate from an
I feel like we definitely need to watch the Hakim video of this at some point, because just that sentence alone is enough, surely.
anti-Americanism, but from a sober understanding that stability under that government is far more likely, especially when the reason for the massive geopolitical disruption in the region wasn't an organic leftist movement to begin with.
Quite like how firms are hostile to telling consumers about their downsides, MLs are very guilty of this too. You're not going to hear about the situation regarding Gaddafi's involvement
We've got the best George Owen book in chat, if you want to go and check that out. I've gone with Down and Out in Paris. That's enough. Yeah. The Road to Wigan Pond is also quite funny. That isn't real, is it? Oh my god, it looks like he's fucking melted. It looks like the waxwork of a normal person that has fucking melted. Did a human breed with a fucking pig? What the fuck is that creature, man? God damn. I mean, amazing eyebrow. But, I mean, fuck, his neck is mental. There's fold upon fold. It doesn't even make sense. Where does it end? Where does it start? That neck is the alpha and the omega, the beginning and the end. 'Twas ever thus, 'twas ever shall be.
in Sankara's death, his invasion of Chad, or the establishment of the Islamic Legion, of whose descendants continue to hound indigenous North Africans to this day. A more well-rounded look certainly doesn't paint him as a character worth looking up to. Probably much more an anti-West Arab nationalist pariah of sorts who did what was politically
He
convenient
looks
at
like
the
an
time.
executive at FIFA. He does. He does.
Why can none of this be spoken about in addition to the stuff about the Pan-African currency? You won't hear about the Assad government being responsible for the overwhelming majority of civilian casualties during the Civil War, its participation in the Gulf War, its bombing of Palestinians, the fact Palestinians overwhelmingly supported the revolution, and franchise torture on behalf of the CIA against dissidents, but constant praising for a literal hereditary dictator. You'll hear countless times about how there were bombings by the United States against Serbs during the 90s, but active denial and obfuscation when it comes to what the Serb armies were doing. And you'll hear about the US sanctioning North Korea and how the fall of the USSR led to the Great Famine there, but not about how at the same time the government were literally spending billions building and renovating their vanity projects instead of using fractions of that wealth to help feed people. So much for those material conditions. The practice of lying and obfuscating facts is a systemic one.
Hang on. Elliot, right, okay, I'm going to try and work out this sentence. I saw a Tankie say, to be an anti-Zionist, you have to be pro-Assad on TikTok. I feel like I just stared into the abyss. What the fuck does that sentence mean? To be anti-Zionist, you have to be pro-Assad. To be anti-Zionist, you have to be pro-Assad. I genuinely cannot work out the connection there. You can be anti-Zionist without ever having heard of Assad. You can hate the Israeli government and its actions without ever having heard of the existence of Syria, let alone the Assad family and regime. I genuinely don't know what the connection is there. Please ask them if you can find them. I mean, presumably they were on day release from whatever institution they're imprisoned in at night. If they're available next time you're on, please ask them, because I'd like to know. I'd like to know what the fuck any of that means.
One within ML milieu. When the Sino-Soviet split occurred, a mole within Sapuza leaked this information to the press. Initially, leadership maintained a line.
Honestly, this image is not only a fun representation of the silly joke I did, but also a genuinely devastating critique of the Soviet system. 255, you've done it. You've killed it. You've literally moided it. It's beautiful. It plays nicely into the joke I did that he looks like a pig because of his weird bloating. And, for those who don't know, this is from the, unfortunately CIA funded, but whatever, cartoon animation of George Unwin's Animal Factory, which won the vote, by the way. Where the bit at the end where the bit before the end, where the pigs, because they have 4 legs, which is good, and 2 legs is bad, become the new capitalists, which is a critique of the Stalinist ossification of the leadership of the Soviet Union. So this is literally perfect. You've literally done a perfect meme. Not the funniest meme there will ever be, but the most perfect meme. And I appreciate that. I appreciate you.
Line of denial to the rank and file, instead putting blame on those very people for being too privy to capitalist lies. Yet in private, within leadership and compliant membership, the line was truthful. If you are all for criticism, then why are these facts always omitted and never allowed for people who might be interested to learn about and make a well-rounded, nuanced opinion of them? Bear in mind that many of these issues have long been in the company of worms. Well, the reason is because there's a perceived feeling that admitting such things might give legitimacy to the global capitalist hegemony, that it might do their dirty work for them, and that the morale and integrity of the movement would be damaged if these truths were made so public. Whilst it might...
See, you see what I mean, though? Skarsgård does look a bit like Milosevic. I've never thought about that before, but he literally does. He looks a little bit like Slobodan Milosevic. So, yeah.
I feel like this is a good strategy. It actually reveals that on some level, you're okay with these things as your baseline. That they're permissible technicalities that can be overlooked in light of the greater goal. As such, what you get is this campism, which takes the mindset of a lawyer trying to find all of the good points irregardless of the truth.
You've done irregardless twice. Okay, I'm issuing a fatwa and declaring holy war against Badmouse. You can't do irregardless twice. That is rubbing salt in a very non-existent wound, and I will not have it. Also, Better Call Saul, fucking amazing series. Also, I'm going to put this out there. I really liked Breaking Bad. I thought it was a great series. One of the very few occasions where the spin-off was better than the original. I'm putting it out there right now. And I don't care who has a problem with it. Better Call Saul, better than Breaking Bad. I've said my fucking piece. No, I will not be taking questions. Moving on.
Which means that given time, this understanding of the world will always at the bare minimum encourage the omission of key features about the true nature of the situation. Critical support, then, becomes support full stop. It becomes incapable of giving good answers by its ideological constraints. Lying becomes a necessary factor, not an occasionally situation.
Lost is better. Can someone ban turning left, please? Just ban them. They're clearly broken. We don't need that kind of degenerate filth around here.
One. And this is important. I want you to think seriously about what you're doing when you deliberately hide the nature of a situation. Is this the sort of thinking that you want for people hoping to build a new world?
Hello, Story Girl.
World? Does this thinking give rise to good, nuanced understandings, or is it hostile to them? Does it genuinely support the global oppressed, or just the ones that are convenient to do so, the others can shut up and die? Does it encourage thinking for yourself, or rather, obeying the lies of an authority? It's infantilizing. And it has a very poor perception on its rank and file, which it always espouses to be dependent upon.
Turn Left says that Lost is the best show in history, which, as we all know, is revisionist. That's just revisionism. When did you turn into such a reactionary, really?
I don't want a worldview which does this. What happened to a ruthless critique?
When I said go over and follow Turn Left, if you did so, can you now go back and unfollow them, please? Go back and unfollow them on all of the platforms immediately. Then we'll see how fucking lost you are.
Concluding that the reality is different from the narrative gives energy to the other side, then I'm looking at you and thinking, what does that tell me about your side? The solutions to all of these dilemmas is truth, education, accurate education on the topic. It takes time. It means trusting that people will be able to work out constructive ways that oppose things like imperialism, even if that means deconstructing your precious canon. Everybody gains from the truth. And people who say that they are into critique and nuance, I think should be excited and gagging for it, improving their game as our understandings of the world change.
Gagging for it?
But instead, I just find this outdated cynicism. Because admitting to these shortcomings, be they that of a state, a person, an event, or a methodology, doesn't work on scale. Before long, they will just find out that it's not consistent or not worth it. As somebody said, you either run out of excuses or you run out of your sanity. Once you've genuinely come to understand how such actions came to be using the evidence available to you, you cannot really defend people like Stalin. But to admit that, to critique it too harshly, would wreck the point of your ideology. Therefore, you stick to the line. Which is why so many of the strongest adherents to Marxism-Leninism are so unfucking relatable. Online and off. Because they're just blind ideologues who are not utilizing their brain power. I do not, however, believe that this is true for someone like Hakim. Rather, I feel that this new critical Marxism-Leninism is actually far worse, in that it enables and gives legitimacy to a bad ideology and only showcases the problems more clearly. It reminds me of when I used to be religious as a kid. I would tell myself, well, at least I'm not like those young earthers. At least I'm not like those homophobic preachers in America, or one of those weird ones that don't drink coffee. I soon realized that it didn't matter the way in which I believed, because what I believed wasn't so. So to summarize, say that you're someone who found Marxist-Leninist beliefs and started thinking, yeah, come on, it's obvious, it's the only way, nothing else works, everyone's too flaky. When I stopped calling myself an anarchist some years ago, for the record, one of my biggest regrets, I was driven by the arrogant belief that none of these groups did anything. Upon getting involved with ML groups and strategies, what became quickly apparent was that those groups were as, if not more inept, than the anarchist ones.
You're going to get some fucking hate. You are going to get some... If there's one thing, like, they say socialists will laugh at you if you call them conservative, whereas if you call them liberal, they'll go fucking mental. MLs... it doesn't. You can call them anything. You can call them fascist. They'll just ignore you, or go like, fuck off. Whereas if you call them anarchist, or say that they're worse than anarchist, they will lose their shit. I can only imagine what the comments are like. I want to build something better. I can't. Oh, that's a fucking. I'm sorry to see that the comments have been dismissive thus far. Oh, there's quite a lot of nice comments, actually. Okay, we found a winner. Stop saying irregardless. That word makes me very upset. Just say regardless. That gets a thumbs up. Boom. I'm replying to that. True. Hang on. That's not... True.
In fact, it created some of the most non-down-to-earth type mentalities I'd ever seen.
Yeah, see you later, Turn Left. Everyone go and follow Turn Left. Thanks for stopping by, man. Have a good one.
Any former Leninist who's done organising can attest to so many Leninist groups trying their best to hijack protests, causes, even martyrs, and use them to promote their base, insisting proudly that they are the vanguard and that they must lead the masses. What does that tell you? Why do these groups do this whilst others do not? What is a commonality between them? What behaviours are being promoted here? What kind of people might be attracted to such? I took a very wrong turn, and it was years of denial and disillusionment, but I eventually shook it all off. It's the only political ideology of mine that I've ever had, which I really, really cringe at. Even anarcho-capitalism can be dismissed as naivete. I should have known better. And I'll be honest, it really, really depresses me. All of those wasted years. All of those bridges burnt. And I know that obviously it's bigger than me, but a lot of that feeling is because I feel partly responsible during that very formative time on left-wing YouTube for influencing a lot of young people towards those not-so-great tendencies. But it was a learning experience, and I've learned from it. I've learned that it doesn't nurture a feeling of comradeship for all its bells and whistles. In the striving for discipline and success, all that I found was an environment which promotes arrogance, rigidity, and paranoia. not traits that we wish to have in any future society we aim
Speak
to
for
grow
yourself.
into. And that's important because the way that we act and form ourselves right now
MLs are the adults in the room of leftism. That's sort of true, actually, yeah.
will define the world that we build.
They are.
I want to build something better. I don't want to just stick around.
They are. They're going. Well, anarchism's just student politics. We're the ones that are going to change. We're going to build the foundations. Fuck off.
And with crap justifications that I knew deep down didn't work, or were always insufficient. I was tired of defending things, actions, situations, states, and people that if you do a little bit of extra digging, you know full well you are not being given the full story. And above all,
Oh, by the way, after this, we're going to watch Soviet Storm, which is a cool fucking series. And even though, as you can see, it's on YouTube, it's literally on fucking YouTube, I can't play it on YouTube. Because it copyright fucks me. So,
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. Victory is ours.
Welcome in. Welcome to the Covolution band, Vampire Hunter D. Yes. So you'll have to come over to the Twitch for that if you want to watch the awesome documentary.
I was tired of just not feeling a genuine sense of joy, a sense of being myself, thinking for myself, which I hopefully am now, thank God. And for the past few years, I feel immensely more at ease now that I've left that all behind. Shortly before recording this, I came across this lovely little piece which puts into words the utter impotence of many left-wing organizations and the fluidity and opportunities that can emerge once you open yourself up towards new directions. I may have some questions about the ending, but if you're the one who wrote it, thank you. It reminded me again of why in the past few years I've really found myself rekindling with a lot of my older anarchist views. I think that anarchism holds a very imperative critique, one that is on par with something like Marx's critique of political economy. And if you were just to throw that away or dismiss it, to pull straws against it, to say nice ideas but it won't work in practice, then I think you're making a very severe error in judgment.
Well, no, there's not. There's a difference between saying it has some interesting ideas that that we can at least partly implement and learn from, and like that anarchism as a way of thinking isn't necessarily a bad idea, but the idea of like an absolutist state on either the grounds of Marxism-Leninism or anarchism is in either case either unpractical or unacceptable. One of the two.
Marx spoke about a society that was made up of classes of conflicting interests, and it got me thinking that actually within both of those is a core interest which stands above all else. That is the very human desire to fulfill oneself, to have as much freedom and autonomy as possible. Obviously, some paths will take the route of oppression to achieve that and others liberation. But they're both influenced from that very same human condition. It's a longing for autonomy, a longing for control over oneself, for dignity, independence, self-worth. The entire point of communism, right? As I've gotten older, that desire only shines brighter. We don't enjoy being subjugated. It's a contradiction which has no end.
Very true.
Wherever you find people who are denied their liberties, it's only a very human response to ask if something can be done better. Even if you did have the most ideal state socialist apparatus, you would still find genuine dissenters emerging. People who desire something greater but are withheld by the violence of human relations. That's what it comes down to. It's something that anybody who seeks to build something new, something different, will have to think about, whatever flavor you choose. Are you going to be on the side of those who seek to fulfill their lives in as reciprocal and sustainable a way as possible? Or are you going to be the ones who come along and destroy it?
I really like that, even though I was fucking muted. I really like that video. I'm glad he went on this sort of journey of self-discovery and changed his views to become less cunty at the very least. at the very least. And I would argue he's become a reasonable human being, which is nice. Also, though, I do need to go to the toilet. So I'm going to put on some Cats. And you can watch some Cats for a few minutes. Is this? Please don't say this is one of the ones with dumb fucking sound effects.
This cat is not being harmed in any way and truly enjoys doing this trick.
It's a little flip.
Part 2, double mom hug.
I'll see you in a bit. I'm going to the toilet. 1 second. Come over to the Twitch if you want to watch a thing.
Oh, it's cold.
These people use their cat to catch a bug.
Yes, girl.
Oh my god, he's gonna
Oh my god.
Oh. Hi, how you doing?
Babe, are you hungry? Say yeah.
She came home after petting a cat that her cat absolutely hates. This is Aries, who is a cat that was born with hyperextended rear legs. He isn't in any pain and is pretty much a normal cat in every other way.
Are you gonna pray or someone else is gonna pray?
This, you can do it. You can do it, Snowball. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. Oh.
This cat seems to have adopted this monkey.
Huh?
I can't find my screwdrivers anywhere. Like, where did they go?
This poor cat had an existential crisis.
Why are you doing this?
He was trying to force his cat to love him.
Over here. It's not that serious.
Have one. You can have one bite. It's pistachio ice cream.
This chunky monster of a boy. He's not overeating. I know that. Look at.
The streamer's cat really loves her.
I don't know what she's looking at.
He just flung cat litter out of the box. He's probably gonna do it again. Oh my god.
El cielo se cae, hijo chicken little.
Who would you save in a burning building, me or Kenzie?
You?
For some reason, a bat latched onto the collar of this cat. This poor cat was halfway to heaven.
Nella. Girl, stop. Jesus Christ. You want to eat? No, it's not time. You just ate.
They wanted to introduce their new kitten to their older cat.
Stop. Shut up.
This cat was in trouble and yelled for backup from her big brother.
He's gonna laugh at your house. Did you get that? Oh my god.
What do you think is wrong with this cat?
Stop it.
Hopefully you enjoyed cats. But maybe you didn't. I have no fucking idea. Anyway, if you're on YouTube, hello there YouTubes. There are people watching on the YouTubes. You should come over to twitch.tv/KFLogan1875. It's there in the chat. We're going to be watching Soviet Storm, which is a series about the Second World War on the Eastern Front. So we go from like bad tankies to good tankies, or at least politically good tankies. Let's not pretend they were perfect. Nobody was. It was war after all. But yes, certainly on the right side, shall we say. Yes, this one is episode 10, from the Dnieper, which is a river in Ukraine, to the Oder, which is a river in Poland. So it's that bit there. The Soviets are now winning, which is good. But in order to watch me, you now have to come over to Twitch, because YouTube fuck me. So I'm going over there exclusively in just a second, because I've got to do the thing, haven't I? God almighty, I'm good at this. So I'm going over in 3, 2, 1. Bye.